WVOX.
Oh, we ain't got a barrel of money. Maybe we're ragged and funny, but we'll travel along, singing a song side by side. Don't know what's coming tomorrow. Maybe it's trouble and sorrow, but we'll travel the road, sharing our load side by side.
One, two.
Through all kinds of weather.
Hi, this is Fran, Sisco. Welcome to the Crisis Help Radio Show. I'm here with Tom Sullivan, my co-host. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Nice to be here once again, and good to see everybody.
And let's say who we have with us in the studio. John Krondes, singer-songwriter. Hi, John.
Hey, good evening. How are you?
Great. We put together the Elvis hit-making team. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Your manager and friend, Noble Love, sitting next to you. I have my friend and wonderful singer, Augie D. Hey, Augie, how are you?
Fran, how are you? It's great to be here.
And we have the pleasure of having John's mom in the studio, Flo.
Flo Krondes.
Hi, Flo, how are you?
Fine, lovely to be here.
You know, we said in the beginning that it's the Crisis Help Radio Show. We like to help people through crisis. We found some recurring themes over the last years that we've been doing it, like keeping a positive attitude, seeing the silver lining, helping people, perhaps using prayer, connecting with other people, seeking professional help when you want. But in many, many cases, we find that the right brain or the arts are very, very helpful in dealing with crisis and stress. And here is a perfect example. John Krondes has written songs which are just amazing as a way to help other people through crisis. And one in particular we're going to talk about tonight is Elvis Presley's girlfriend, Ginger Alden, who wrote a book recently called Elvis and Ginger. And unfortunately for her, for everyone, Elvis passed away, and she had this fractured relationship. And now John has written a song about the relationship between Elvis and Ginger and what may become to be, or perhaps a way for them to connect. In any event, this may actually help Ginger through what remaining crisis she may have in her life. And on a broader level, listeners may hear in the song something to help them through their own crisis of a relationship and their own stressful, in addition to it being a beautiful song. So you're hearing the piano only in the background to a very recently written song called Close Your Eyes and I'll Be There. And we're going to hear another part of that song with John singing it. Please understand that this is in its initial stages. I think you're going tomorrow. Is that right, John? You're going to the Sony Studios tomorrow?
Absolutely.
To record?
Tomorrow we'll be putting rock guitars, one of my favorite things. This is rock and roll. And we'll be at Daddy's House Recording Studio. That's Puff Daddy Sean Combs, Bad Boy Records recording studio, part of that whole big Sony umbrella. Very good recording studio. And another little ironic story, my brother-in-law, who's also in the music business, hooked me up with this studio and put me in touch with Tony Druten, who's the manager of this great studio, and a few others. And the minute I did call him and he heard my name, he says, "John, I don't know if you remember me, but I was the manager at Sony Music Studios when you recorded your first song, The End." I mean, going everything full circle. I mean, just the ironies and every little twist of fate. It's almost as if we've all been directed to find each other.
You know, I want to play a little clip from your CD out that's called The End, and we're going to, while we hear the song playing, we're going to describe the origination of the song, the connection to your father, and the connection as you just mentioned. So, Engineer Chuck, it's song 15. So, John, this song was written by your dad,
Absolutely.
Jimmy Krondes.
Jimmy Krondes.
And then you resurrected it and recorded it again and put it on a CD, which listeners can call up. Actually, they can call us at 914-636-0110 and request a CD, and we're going to give them a CD for free.
Sure, absolutely. We'd love to do that.
And now, that CD has on it 16 songs, including songs like Tender Moments, Is This Really Love, Let It Be Me, There Goes My Everything, Something Blue, Show Me the Way to Your Heart. Amazing songs. And you have a voice that sounds very much like Elvis, very much like Elvis. And it conjures up an image of Elvis singing these songs as one listens to this CD. But perhaps as importantly, you've resurrected the whole Memphis sound and got it on the CD, and now have assembled members of the Elvis hit-making team like DJ Fontana and Ray Walker of the Jordanaires and Shane Keister, and you have all of these people coming back and bringing back that wonderful Elvis sound. So here we have Elvis, right? We have Elvis's voice.
Speaking of spirit, here he is.
Right through the walls we hear it, right?
Suspicious Minds, a great record.
So as we all know, Elvis's life was cut short, and we all dearly miss him. Many people still feel the loss, his loss. So what you're doing, your project here, bringing back many of the Elvis songs and seeing how other songs perhaps would have been done by Elvis had he had the opportunity. So tell us a little bit more about The End and its special irony.
Well, it's really a very, very special song, and my father, Jimmy Krondes, and Sid Jacobson wrote that beautiful song, 1959, and Earl Grant was a fabulous singer. A lot of people mistakenly thought it was Nat King Cole, and just had one of those godly voices like Nat Cole, and the song really hit the top of the charts all over the world, and it was a song really about hope and love, and that's what Elvis is all about, and I'm sure there's no mistake in that song coming into my life, Elvis's life, and full circle, bringing all of Elvis's people back together. And for listeners who are not really familiar with the story, Priscilla, Elvis's wife, was serenaded with my father's song. Elvis loved that song so much, and he was in Germany at the time in the army. And the very night that he met Priscilla, picked and chose The End, at the end of a rainbow, my father's song, and sat down at the piano, called her over, and serenaded Priscilla with that very same song, The End.
So he must have he heard the Earl Grant recording of it and obviously liked it very much. And
well, absolutely.
Right,
the song was booming all over the world. Earl Grant was hitting the top of the charts in every country.
Right, and he loved that. And Flo, does this bring back wonderful memories for you, talking about your husband and the song?
Absolutely.
Great, and it must give you a real lift knowing that your son is now taking over from some of what your husband had done. Right?
Absolutely. Well, when John first recorded The End, he brought it home and he played it for me, and I just cried.
Wow.
It's so beautiful.
We're going to hear a little bit of The End right now, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make a special phone call to a man named George Andrews.
I remember him.
Who is your arranger on The End and many of the songs on the CD, and then also the arranger on all these other songs, or many of the other songs, including this new song called Close Your Eyes and I'll Be There. So we want to hear a little bit of The End right now, and we'll get a good idea of your voice and also the orchestration of the song and the wonderful writing by your dad, Jimmy Krondes.
End of a rainbow, you'll find a pot of gold. At the end of a story, you'll find it's all been told. But our love has a treasure our hearts can always spend, and it has a story without any end. The end of a river, the water is
Chuck, you have George on the line? Oh, great. George Andrews, hi, it's Fran, Sisco, and we have a room full of people.
Okay.
And I just want to introduce you to my co-host, Tom Sullivan. And with us here is John Krondes and Noble Love, and a dear friend of mine, Augie D, who is a singer, and John's mom is even here, Flo. All right, so we got a great group, loving to talk to you.
Okay.
We just played a little bit of The End. We were talking about the song and John's dad's writing of it and the meaning behind the song, and how that song has been resurrected, so to speak, from the Earl Grant rendition. And I just have to say that it's lush and rich. It's a beautiful song, and your orchestration, your arrangement of it is just impeccable.
Well, thank you.
And how was John to work with on that CD and putting together the CD and all the songs, choosing the orchestration, doing that with him? Tell us a little bit about that experience.
John's pretty good to work with. He's pretty open. We've been sitting and writing a lot of the orchestrations together. So I've kind of like, I've got like 50, 60 years of experience at this, and I've kind of taken him under my wing, and he's taken the lessons really to heart. And now we're at the point where we are writing these orchestrations together, and he's coming up with some pretty good arrangements.
Wow,
but in the beginning, I had worked with his dad, and we did a Christmas album up at his house when they had an 8-track studio in his basement, and that's where I met John. John, how old were you at the time? Something like 14, 15 years old?
Probably 12, 13 years old.
Okay. And Jimmy was going to groom him into being a singer, and and John was sitting in the background watching everything go on and so forth, and we met and talked a little bit at the time, and unfortunately, when John was about 18, Jimmy died, and Jimmy was grooming him to actually make an artist out of him. Now John had to take on the responsibility of the family, and when he finally decided that he really wanted to do this and had some money to do it, he thought of me and called me, and we've been working ever since. And it's been a very, very good and rewarding experience, as the music tells.
George, that's such a powerful story, and it's beautiful that you were able to be there for John in those early years, and then see him grow up and now come into life with him here and helping him with the orchestrations and seeing him blossom like that. It's just an outstanding thing. And I have only known John a couple of months, but I sense this about him, that he's really very concerned about relationships and people being good with each other and repairing things that may have gone fractured, as I think is the case in the Elvis and Ginger situation with the song, trying to put that back together.
Right.
And then also, I think, in what I know about maybe his relationship with his father, and that these songs are giving him an opportunity to reconnect with his dad.
That's obviously very true.
Yeah, and I think, and I applaud anyone out there who's writing music or writing a book or painting a painting or has been influenced by people in their life to do that and enroll other people in it. It's a very wonderful thing, and it's a way actually through life, a beautiful way through life.
Well, I'm sure your dad would have been extremely proud of you for what you're doing. And they say a great song is forever, and The End is certainly a great song, and it's I guess it's coming up on 60 years old now, and it's one of the great gifts that songwriters have is there's a piece of them that will live forever as long as people are listening to their songs. So
right.
It must make the family very happy, I would imagine.
So with that background, we want to hear John talk about this new song, Close Your Eyes and I'll Be There. And tell us about how you were inspired. You told me the story already. It's really an amazing story about how it happened. So tell the listeners out there. Go ahead.
Through my association from that very first song that George talked about, and you just played my father's song, The End, not knowing what trouble I was stepping into, from really that very first meeting with George Andrews. George looked at me when he heard the demo, just my piano and voice. I came to him for him to hear my arrangement. I had a couple too many glasses of wine one night and felt reminiscent of my father and melancholy, and started playing with his song and just started writing this arrangement. And that's really pretty much everything that I've ever written. And this year has been very special to me. Coming from that first recording of The End, full circle, after 10 years of recording, we have pretty much everybody that ever worked with Elvis Presley back together making new music. The TCB band, the American Studios band, which actually was the band that played behind Elvis on the song you played at the beginning of the show on Suspicious Minds.
Wow.
Just the most amazing and most talented musicians in the world, and they're all still here.
And you've got the DJ Fontana, the drummer who was with Elvis for so many years.
Elvis watched that man in 1954, and DJ, told me the story. Elvis watched him in 1954 playing drums on the Louisiana Hayride, and said to him, "I want to play with you someday." Very much like what he said to the Jordanaires.
Sure. And about a year later, it happened.
All materialized, and as Ray Walker had said to me, and has told a lot of media outlets, I mistakenly said when a lot of radio stations had asked me, and I'd been on a show with him earlier, how did this happen? And I called it an accident. He corrected me and said this was no accident. He said in life there are no accidents. Right. And truly, looking back over the last 10 years and starting from that song, The End, which ironically is being called a new beginning for Elvis, a new beginning for my father, for myself, for music fans around the world that lost an entire style of music, and good music, and those melodies, those harmonies, like the Jordanaires, the Stamps, the Imperials sang, just all died when Elvis died in August 16th of 1977. And I knew the very day my father died and passed away, 1986, the only thing going through my mind was that I have to finish his work. And that was really my purpose and my mission. Right. I knew that my father left truckloads of these gorgeous songs that he wrote that would just die and be forgotten if I didn't continue his work. And ironically, it's kind of met in a parallel path with Elvis Presley, who was cut short and had the world at the top of his head in his hands. The most powerful musicians, what he assembled was just so far ahead of his time, and everything died when he died. Yes. And coming full circle from that song, we brought everybody back together just in the last 3 months. So many producers and from Memphis.
You mentioned the Sweet Inspirations have been working with you, a group that worked with Elvis.
And Elvis, again, found those girls singing with Aretha Franklin in very much the same way he found everybody. Approached them and saw them on TV with Aretha Franklin and said, I want that sound. Right. And that's how he found
He knew what he wanted. He had great ears.
Oh, he did. I mean, what he put together was the coolest thing on earth. And listening to what we have now in the last few years of recording, it's really amazing, and it's all coming to life. We've got nearly 60 recordings just in the last month since Elvis Week in September, A lot of these producers pushed us and pushed buttons, called the musicians, put us back in the studio, and we haven't stopped. Literally, I've been just in the past week in Nashville, Memphis, New York. We're going to New York tomorrow to do rock guitars on this song we're talking about, Close Your Eyes and I'll Be There.
Yeah, I want to talk more about this song.
Yeah, it's
All right.
really...
Tell me about tell the listeners and us in this room how it started. What inspired you with this song?
Well, from my crazy life, and everybody, literally everybody, musicians, the friends, everybody in Elvis's life has become a part of my life. And I have to thank Elvis and my father, who I pray to all the time. When you talk about crises in prayer, I pray very hard to all of them. And it's almost like it's a married mission that I'm finishing. And what started me was really finishing my father's work, but I found myself continuing Elvis's unfinished work and what he left behind, and beautiful songs that were meant to be, like Paul Evans, who I'm co-writing many songs with, and Paul Evans had approached me very early on in this project through introduction by Tom Malone of the David Letterman Show, and all these writers that are still alive and around have a handful or more of songs that Elvis himself was destined and ready to record, including Tender Moments. And that's really how this came to be. And the song Close Your Eyes, I'll Be There, I wrote, just finished writing a week ago, and about a month ago, after meeting Ginger Alden, Elvis's girlfriend and fiance, they were going to get married. And she wrote a beautiful book, which has really made a lot of people very happy. That came out in September, called Elvis and Ginger. And From Her Heart tells this story. And just like everyone else in this project, Ginger and I found each other. And
by the way, I just want to say this about the book. Amazon's customer reviews are outstanding. You know, the ones that there have been 400 or 500 reviews of the book. So
that's fantastic.
And I read many of those reviews, and a lot. It's not only factual, but it's very succinct, clear, and a very good read. You know, so highly recommend the book, Elvis and Ginger. And John, with that relationship, knowing about that relationship, it was what, stewing in your mind, and then just one night the words came to you, or the melody came to you first? How did it happen?
It hit me like a ton of bricks, actually. But you know, when people ask me how do you write a song, I'll give you a quick little story. I asked my father, Jimmy Krondes, the same thing when I was in high school. He was molding me, I think, from the time I was born. I'm not a normal person. From the very beginning, when I was 3 months old, my mother will tell you we had a recording studio in every house I lived in, and upgraded to 24-track when my father died in '86. So,
where did you grow up, actually? What city did you come
actually born right here in New Rochelle, New York.
Oh, really?
New Rochelle Hospital, and then moved on to Darien, Connecticut, and that's where my dad had upgraded and had top-of-the-line everything, and that's when
he was determined that you were going to be playing with him at some time, you know?
And I asked him, how do you write songs? And he just simply looked at me and responded and said, it comes from God. And really, that's the explanation. You know, I bought a beautiful house in Memphis, Tennessee, over the last year, and about 6 months ago, you know, as we were putting things together and getting furniture and moving things in, I bought a piano and have a little writer's room in the middle of the hallway upstairs, and just this came out of me. And
wow.
I wrote 2 gorgeous songs this year, and this song really, from hearing from Ginger and speaking with her, and she was a very young girl. She was, I think, 20 years old, and found Elvis in the bathroom and was crushed. I mean, her heart was broken. Her soul was broken, her dreams were shattered. And one night, just listening to what she was telling me, I probably dreamed it, and I truly believe that Elvis spoke through me and my father, and there's no other way to explain this, because I woke up that next morning. I was waiting for my mother, who was in Memphis and loves Memphis, with me, and she was taking forever to get ready. I had my cup of coffee and went up to the piano and had this in my head. And I had to sit down at the piano. It was almost like if you can imagine this, I feel like the piano to me sometimes is like a Ouija board, and that's the oracle.
Right.
When I sit down, I mean, the story was in my head, but I had to sit at the piano and I had to literally go to the next room and get a piece of paper and a pen, because it's like waking up out of a dream. And if you don't write it down, it'll be gone within 10
That's
seconds.
right.
A lot of songwriters have talked about kind of dreaming songs.
Well,
I know Paul McCartney
would
yesterday. He
Right.
said Paul McCartney said he woke up one morning and this tune was playing in his head, and he immediately ran to the piano because, like you just said, he knew if he didn't write it down right away, he would forget it. And one of our most beautiful songs. It's interesting, the creative process.
Now in this song, "Close Your Eyes and I'll Be There," I think the title is pretty interesting, because "Close Your Eyes" is a famous beginning of a famous Beatles song. "Close your eyes and I'll kiss
All
you."
My Lovin'.
And "I'll Be There" is a Michael Jackson song. So we have two major songwriters in the title. But the perspective of the song is from Elvis to Ginger, and we have the song coming up. And then we want listeners to know that this is just your first take on this. Oh no, Chuck was
Michael
playing
Jackson.
Michael Jackson's song.
Well, he's here too.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
married to Elvis's daughter.
That's right. So
Right.
We can't forget him.
They're all connected.
All the
Yeah, right. It's all coming together. It's amazing.
good spirits are in the room.
Nearly fell out of my chair. It's an incredulous story. You couldn't write the script even if you wanted to. These series of events were meant to be, apparently, and everything's unfolding now, so that we're going to restore the Memphis sound, and John is going to be famous around the world. So congratulations.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes, and the work that you've done so far and planning to do surely attest to that. I want to mention about this song that it's Elvis saying basically to Ginger that they're going to reunite, right?
Yes, and it really.
And you're singing as if you are Elvis to Ginger. Now she must be very comforted by this. How has she reacted to you? And then we're going to play the song.
Well, I had mentioned to her just recently, this is all so new. I mean, this is literally last Saturday that I finished
Right.
writing. I was actually nearby here, your friends at Sam Ash in White Plains, trying to finish writing the ending of the song, and had George Andrews, the arranger, cracking a whip, telling me hurry up and finish it, because he knows if I don't document this and record the piano track, I'll lose it, because I'll get busy and do something else or hear other melodies in my head. And that's the nature of songwriting. I have to go the minute I have that song rehearsed and record the piano track. So I flew down to Nashville on Wednesday. Literally by Monday, finished writing the ending to the song and the words to the very end of the song and the music, and recorded the piano track on Wednesday. And when you talk about meaning and how does this come about, there's a beautiful book that was actually one of Elvis Presley's favorite books, and Ginger talks about this in her book, Elvis and Ginger, a book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. And another friend of mine, and someone who I think hopefully you'll have on the show soon, Larry Geller, who was Elvis's spiritual advisor and very good friend. He was destined to marry Elvis and Ginger, and she talks about that in her book. It's really a very, very beautiful story of love, and that's what Elvis was all about. And I almost feel, and I'm going to explain to you just a quick passage from that book, The Prophet, which I myself love that book.
I love the
understand
book
why
too.
Elvis gave it to all his guests, and
Right.
read that book religiously, and I think understood his life. And I found myself understanding part of my crazy life reading some of the passages from this man. I guess we're both from the same planet or something. But what he said in that book, The Prophet, is very ironic to me, and explains and sums up how I wrote this song and how this stuff comes to me. And what he said, Khalil Gibran, was that, and I feel myself saying the same thing, am I a harp that the mighty has touched me? Or am I a flute that his voice passes through me? And that's exactly how this song reads. And I almost feel like I was touched, and listening to her, and Ginger and I had just developed this new relationship and become friends, and her heart has been crying, and this poor girl has held in these feelings, and her dreams, her life was shattered literally overnight, and that's the message that came out of my song.
John, I think this is not only admirable, but it's you. It's who you are. And I think part of it being who you are is because of what happened to you when your dad died.
Oh, absolutely. And I knew it's all
and-
working together. All
And
those
people made your life better and tried to heal that wound for you, and you're doing that with other people and using music as the medium. And what better thing can there be? So it's really beautiful.
And what I said to Ginger, and repeat to her and to the listeners, is to believe in those special powers.
Absolutely.
And when you get to talk to Larry Geller, they shared, and Elvis believed in those special powers. And I can't tell you enough that it comes from God, and if you believe, the special powers will guide you out of the dark. And this is a story that I believe that somehow I feel like I was the messenger, and to tell Ginger and other people that believe in love, that lost love or lost loved ones, that the spirit never dies, they're still here. So when she's talking about that wedding, and she was crushed, they were planning their wedding when he died, and a wedding date, and the poor girl woke up and he was gone. But physically he's gone, but he's still here, and that's the message of the song.
I remember the last television special, I'm sure you've seen this, that Elvis did that actually aired after his death, because I know he had done a series of concerts, and they put together moments from those concerts for a television special that actually ended up airing shortly after he died. But I remember him introducing Ginger from the stage at that concert, which must have been probably about 6 weeks before his death. And he asked her to stand up and take a bow.
Introduced her.
Introduced her, my fiance, Ginger. So, yeah.
And she stood up, and there she was. And just having somebody close to you die, but having Elvis Presley and somebody who was the king of rock and roll pass and leave you.
Well, I can remember everybody,
shadow.
the death of Elvis, everybody remembers where they were. Even those of us who never met the man.
Where were you, Tom?
I remember, you know what I was doing? I was watching the Mike Douglas show. You remember the Mike Douglas show?
Sure do.
I was 22 years old, and I was watching the show, and they interrupted the show for a special bulletin from CBS News. Jim Jensen announced, and he said, Elvis Presley. And I said, oh, no, he's dead. Because, they don't break into shows like that
Sure.
for any other reason. I remember exactly where I was. And for somebody who was going to marry him, can you imagine what that must have been like?
Yeah, because her sorrow was private, but in addition to that, it was very public. So.
Well, she's been in a public spotlight for 37 years, and has gone through a lot.
Yeah.
And
so
her love never died.
Wonderful for you to be doing this song to help her through this. And we're going to listen to the song, and then after we listen to the song and talk a little bit more, then we have our other guest, Augie D, here with us, and we're going to talk about your singing and your songwriting too. So once again, this is a draft of the song, right?
This is Tender Moments. Paul Evans
this
is
the
in the building too.
Yeah, this is Paul Evans. This is on the End, the CD. Paul Evans is one of the writers.
He wrote with Elvis many big hits,
right?
Tender Moments.
And this is you, John Krondes, singing
with the Jordanaires.
Thank you, love, for giving.
I love this song. And now, was this orchestrated by George Andrews, who we spoke to earlier?
Yes, this is one of those songs George and I wrote the strings and horns together. We're like mad scientists. George and I will sit there like a husband and wife and bicker, but sometimes it's really an amazing working relationship. George will start something, and he hears these gorgeous melodies in his head, then he'll get stuck. Then he'll be like, John, sit at the piano now. And then I'll somehow hear something that comes next, or I'll hear something, and we just sit there back and forth and come up with these beautiful
arrangements. You yourself are a songwriter and an arranger. Now, arranging is very different than songwriting.
Well, it is. Yeah. But to me, part of it is easier because once the song is written, and especially if I'm one of the writers of the song, I already know the melodies. I know what the song means and the actual physical meaning of the song. So when I get to the point where we start a track and we start writing what the orchestra, the strings, and the horns are going to play, I kind of hear these things in my head.
You know what I would like to do? I just had this idea, and tell me if you don't want to do it, we don't have to do it. But when we do this song, this new song of yours, Close Your Eyes and I'll Be There, as it's playing, because it's an unorchestrated song, it's simple, you and the piano, it's beautiful as it is, but I want you, if you can, if you want to, comment on what you're going to add in where.
Oh, absolutely.
All right?
So the
So
song
as
just,
we're listening to the song, and not so that it disturbs understanding the lyrics, but if you could say, this is where I think
sure.
the bass
And as
guitars
fans
will
can
come
kind
in.
of understand,
Right.
you know, how and what this is. We just started recording this track last Wednesday at Hilltop Studio, a great studio, and producer there, John Nicholson, who's working with me in the talent. And that was the idea, to document that roadmap, the foundation. And I explain this to people that don't understand writing music or making records. It's like building a house.
That's right.
And the piano track is, in a lot of my music, very important, and that's the foundation.
That's the bones.
That's pouring the
The
concrete
bones, right.
slab.
Right.
And after that, you know, then you start doing the framing. You know, next
Right.
we're putting a rock guitar with Ira Siegel tomorrow, who's one of the best in the business, played on many, many hit records. He's been on a few of my songs. Dynamite guy.
Even before percussion, you're going to do
Well,
that?
usually we'll put the
Usually
rhythm
put
section
the-
together,
right.
put the drums,
Right.
a
Right.
guitar player and the bass. But with George Andrews and I, and what George discussed with me, this is a song, the song I wrote about Ginger and Elvis, Close Your Eyes and I'll Be There, that it's a love song, but it's kind of like a Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, it's rock and roll love song.
Okay.
And it has this syncopated rhythm that I wrote and feel, and it's very modern in today's style. And George said to me too, let's put Ira Siegel, let's get those rock guitars playing those hooks and those syncopated rhythms with the piano, and then let Elvis's drummer and bass players, let them follow that feel. Let's
Okay.
make this rock
So
and roll
it's,
first.
so it's a work in progress.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're seeing
Oh,
where
absolutely.
it's going.
Yeah, so this would be very interesting for the listeners, for your comments on top of the song. That's it.
This is it.
Close your eyes and I will be there.
Ginger, I know your heart was broken right in two, and I know
When is percussion coming
your
in?
dreams.
The percussion in this song will start right at the beginning of the song. This is in your face. This is
All right.
rock and roll guitars. Would be not just Ira, but Elvis's guitar players, a few of them, the drums, the bass, horn section. This is the Phil Spector theory of
Wall of sound.
everything
Wall
but
of
the
sound.
kitchen
Right.
sink.
Right.
The great wall of sound.
sound.
Times gone by, darling, don't cry. Your life is moving on.
Very distinct melody, very clear.
Thank you.
To marry you came from the bottom of my heart, tears me apart. I had to leave you in my empty bed at home, in this lonely world alone.
This is Elvis singing to Ginger
Through John Krondes.
through John Krondes.
The Ouija board.
Right, and here's the bridge.
Elvis believed in all that stuff.
Oh, big time.
ESP, and
Big
he
time.
really believed in it.
And we're going to have
I think
Larry
you've already
Geller on
talked-
the show.
Larry Geller is the guy to really explain that.
Right.
I'm crazy, but Larry Geller, he's the one who sorted it all out for Elvis. And they sat for hours and days, and he decided that Elvis decided he was going to have Larry marry, perform the wedding with Elvis and Ginger.
At the end of the song, we'll tell the listeners how to get more information on the internet for your recordings and stuff.
And when you close your eyes, when you close your eyes, when you close your eyes, I'll be there. The time is right for you to marry me. And when the stars appear, you'll know I'm near. Don't shed a tear.
strings at this point?
So there'll be strings and horns.
I'll be there.
George Andrews would be very angry with me if we didn't have strings and horns. At least the rock and roll horn section.
You're gonna have a lot of bottom in here too, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's going to be probably 3
lot of
guitar
three
players and rock guitars, punching you in the head by the time we're done with
I
this.
can't wait to hear the finished product. It's really
Great song,
got a
right?
future. Yeah.
Words were said about you, which cut right through your soul. Sweetness, I know people are mean, but you're my beauty queen.
I love the simplicity of the lyrics. Very direct.
Well, it has to tell a story, and I believe that's part of the mission, that I was the harp that's been touched.
Right.
And through that flute, I'm delivering that message to her to have hope that he'll be there.
And Elvis was a very direct speaker. I mean, right? He told it as it was.
Larry will tell you, Elvis believed big time in those special powers. Ray Walker, the Jordanaires, that all of this group are very religious and spiritual people, and that was, I think, a very big part of the success of Elvis. Elvis was gospel first and believed in the church, and he said some very deep and spiritual things to Ginger. And I think part of what she believes and my belief in this song coming about is about that Elvis is not gone. People joke that Elvis is in the building, but he is. And through me, if I'm the medium, this is a message that she deeply needs, and every other girl that's lost someone or someone who's lost a loved one.
So you close out that song by saying, "Don't be afraid of the dark, Ginger. I love you. If you could see me, then you'll know we'll meet again."
That's correct.
That's beautiful.
Now,
very
you say you
touching.
just wrote this song just within the last
The
week.
last month.
Has Ginger actually heard the song?
No, not yet. I've told her about it. I mean, this is so new, and my life is so insane.
So she hasn't heard it yet.
I've been, we communicated a few times while I was down in Nashville, and I've literally been moving. I had like 3 hours sleep, got up at 5:30 in the morning when I got to Memphis, drove to Nashville, worked all day, recorded the piano track, put a vocal on it, and, like building that house of rock and roll. We have a foundation now to start building that song. I'm very excited.
That's great, and we're going to have you back. We're going to have you back. We're going to do another show where we'll take that song through its several steps, and like Noble said earlier, we're going to see it that you're famous, very famous, and that the big effect that you're having on people here will even be magnified.
Maybe you could be the
God
contractor as we build this house of rock and roll.
I love the idea, and I'll
Well,
have some
we
back
really
rows with
we
me.
really look forward to hearing the finished record.
Yeah,
because
and
it is very exciting
It's a
and very
very
moving
good start.
as well, so.
As I told you, I have a different idea for an arrangement being more like an R&B stuff and a very sweet and romantic stuff. But
We're going to do that
lots
too.
of room. There's lots of room. That's a wonderful song. You got
I'm not
You
kidding
wrote a
you.
great song.
Thank you. You're on the right mark, and I will tell you, as you start bringing in the whole thing with the Isley Brothers, I wrote a song with Paul Evans that actually is one of the songs on the plate, along with this song I wrote about Ginger and Elvis, Close Your Eyes and I'll Be There. There's a song I wrote which is nearly complete that has James Brown's entire band.
Wow.
And we're about to put the
great.
Jordanaires on that song. And it's a song called Get Up, The Spirit Lives.
It's great.
I wanted to ask you just one thing about, you talked about, DJ Fontana, Louisiana. James Burton, have you worked with James at
Oh,
all?
absolutely.
And he was with Elvis for a lot of years, and Ricky Nelson
Till he
originally.
died. He played
Yes,
with
Ricky
Ricky Nelson.
originally, and
Right.
you talked about Elvis's ears. Elvis originally heard him playing with Ricky,
Right.
and then he went to Elvis and was with him until
He only wanted the best.
Yeah, he
I want the same thing.
We hear a little
Great
Ricky
stuff.
Nelson. Our wonderful engineer Chuck is bringing in "Went to a Garden Party."
Turn that up.
And I love this song, especially his mentioning of John Lennon in this.
Great song.
beautiful stuff.
Yeah. So
I mean, he really did work with the best.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
So I want to, John, thank you so much. You can stay with us for the rest of the show, John and Noble. And we got Jack. Yeah, let's hear from Jack. Then we're going to go to our guest, Augie D. We got Jack
If I could,
yeah, go ahead. You want to?
Yeah.
if I
You
could
want to
just
mention something else?
mention one other thing in response to what Tom said. That's why. First of all, the spirit never dies. But what Elvis had assembled, and it took him a while. Watching Aretha Franklin, watching Ricky Nelson, finding the best, and what he put together in the Elvis hit-making team, the Memphis Sound, which was a compilation of everything Elvis heard, was exposed to, the Jordanaires, the gospel, the rock and roll, Memphis itself, known as the city of the blues and rock and roll and barbecue, but that's a different story.
Right.
But this is too big to die, and I think trying to analyze my own crazy life, this is a mission. We're all
John,
feeling that mission.
I applaud you. I think it's great, and I want our listeners to also know that we're all connected. And this is a great example that you're giving in this Elvis hit-making team. It's a great example, and it really shows what Elvis was able to do and what you now are able to do.
Yeah.
But this happens in our lives all the time. We only need to look and make those connections and be as diligent and tenacious.
Don't use me as an example.
As
My
you
life
are.
is crazy.
Yeah, no, we want to use you as an example. You're a very good example for people. And Jack, we only have a few minutes because we have Augie D, who
I'm
we haven't
gonna make this
spoken
very
to.
short.
Very good, Jack. Thank you so much for
Program-
calling in.
the
And I
program
just
is
want
very
to
inspirational.
introduce you that you're our resident psychologist.
That's
And
right.
we love when you call in.
We need that desperately
We-
here.
we
We
sure
got
do.
a house
Sure
full of
do.
nuts.
All right.
I'm not going to put you on a couch, but let me just say
Yes.
the confluence of all the things that happened. My brother, today's Veterans Day, my brother was a pilot in World War II. He disappeared before his 20th birthday. So the songs, Close Your Eyes and I'll Be There, Krondes, it really fits right in. He has not died. He is
He's
in
still
my
here.
memory, in the memory of my children. So I see the relationship of today, Veterans Day, the Elvis and Ginger, the Prophet. It really, and the spirit never dies, and we kind of go on like that in our lives. And I see that in my own life. I see that in my practice with patients. And it's just endemic to everybody who exists, who has any kind of sensitivity. And that's great.
Great.
You've done a great job, Fran.
Jack, thank you so much for calling in. Thank you. And please listen to the rest of the show.
I will.
I want to introduce thank you, Jack. I want to introduce our next guest, Augie D. Crescenzo. Augie D., how are you?
Good. How you
Good,
doing, Fran?
good. Glad that you're here. You're going to come back on at another time also.
Well, I
Maybe
research Sinatra a lot, and I go back and
Go right up to the mic.
I pick up some of his songs that not necessarily were popular, but that were really beautiful songs. And one of them is this. Softly, I will leave you softly, long before my arms can beg you stay for one more hour or one more day. After all the years, I can't stand the tears. So softly as I leave you there, as I leave you there, as I leave you there.
Wow, I was thinking, great, beautiful. Augie, beautiful. You know what? I was
really
thinking.
hear myself because of.
Oh, you know what?
you
Maybe
sound-
you
you
have
sound
to.
You turn it up.
Yeah, turn it up. Can you hear it now?
Yeah, better. Yeah.
Yeah, your knee.
Yeah.
I thought of Ginger and Elvis with that. He left her softly.
Wait till you hear this. There is a connection to Elvis and Ginger, and she wrote this in her book. It's one of the two special songs that Elvis sang to her, and when they were in Las Vegas, and their time was very short, he pulled her aside and sang in her ear that very same song, "Softly as I Leave You," and that's that same song.
Wow, what a coincidence!
And that's one of the
Not a
songs that we
coincidence, right.
actually have started recording with all of
Wow,
Elvis's people.
that's great.
And George is about to write some orchestrations on that
Well,
song.
do me a favor. When you record that song, I want to be in the studio, and Augie and I are going to come back.
You're all gonna be
We're
there.
going to go into the studio. Augie, do a little "Come Fly With Me."
Come fly with me, let's fly away. If you can use some exotic booze, there's a bar in far Bombay. Come on, fly with me, let's fly away. Come float with me, let's float down to Peru. A llama land, there's a one-man band, and he'll toot his flute for you. That's it.
Great.
That's
Very good.
Fantastic.
That's a great.
If that's not New York, I don't know what this is.
Right. Tell it. You told me a story once how you wrote a song. It came to you, and you ran to a friend. Tell us about this. This is a great.
I was sitting in a cafeteria once, was having something to eat at the hospital in Portchester, and there's this little skinny, little small guy with this big hat, cowboy hat on. And I was sitting there, and this came into my head. I can't hear myself.
That's all right. You don't need to hear yourself. Just
Oh,
tell the
okay.
story.
And this came into my head, John. I got a 10-gallon hat and a 2-gallon head. All the girlies seem to like me 'cause they think I'm good in bed. And the cowboys think I'm crazy. They just laugh at me instead. I got a 10-gallon hat and a 2-gallon head. Down, 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 down. Now bring this to my...
Fantastic.
Yes,
Close it with a white sport coat and a pink carnation, and you got it.
There you go.
Sounds very similar.
Marty
Yeah,
Robbins.
very
Marty
similar.
Robbins.
Of course, great.
Right.
I was just thinking, and I know we only got about a minute to go, but of course, Elvis and Sinatra did that one great television special.
Hey, you're good, man.
Which
Marty Robbins.
Oh, yeah, Marty Robbins,
Yeah,
the white
right.
sport coat. Yeah, Chuck is he's got everything.
And a pink carnation.
Now, John, do you know who Elvis's idol was? I guess you know that.
Who?
Dean Martin.
Oh, Dean Martin. He's
Yeah,
another
he
fabulous
patterned
singer.
himself
Oh,
with his
absolutely.
voice a little
Right.
bit like him.
But he sang
So-
with
so what
Sinatra on one television special in 1960, and they sang a medley of Witchcraft and I believe Love Me Tender, Sinatra and
Beautiful.
Elvis together.
Wow, great.
Now,
So
speaking
now,
of-
Augie, what did you do with that song? You went to see a
Oh, I
friend.
brought it to my cousin who had a band, and he got his band to record it, and it put some...
Get up closer to the mic.
It told a little story about the guy walking into Gillies and starting a fight, and his hat, he had a gun under his hat.
That's a beautiful
Cute
story.
little song.
And you won an award for that
Oh,
song.
so my
right?
cousin sends it into Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, to a country and western music award show, and it wins an award. The only thing is we didn't.
Fabulous.
Yeah, we didn't know who to bring it to. We had no connection.
Well, you know who to bring it to now. Your connections here may end up helping you.
Now, you can't
Get it.
close this show, Tom and Fran, without mentioning Sammy Davis Jr. When we're talking about spirit, you've relived all the Rat Pack.
Sure.
You better mention Sammy.
They were always.
He's here watching too.
Yeah, they were.
Let's be fair.
You know
here.
what? We want to get them in the room here. Fran, Sisco, and Tom Sullivan signing out. Good night.
What kind
Sammy
of
Davis.
fool am I